Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and good morning to all the members who are listening.
Oh, I haven't. Sorry.
This is a closed event, and only members who are officers of the society are present. Now, in terms of our governance, the AGM cannot start until such time as either we have 100 members or half an hour has passed, and those present, who will be the 10, will be deemed to be the quorum. So I have to say, this is a somewhat peculiar experience. There is no need for an AGM at all, because we've been conceded by the Charities Commission that, given the COVID problems, no AGM is necessary. However, we felt at the AGM that members should have an opportunity to listen from the principals, to ask questions, to hear from them about how the RHS has done in 2019, and also what our hopes and aspirations are for the future. But obviously, ladies and gentlemen, I can't throw the questions to the floor at the end as I normally do. Now, my report is for 2019, and I have to say that looking at it through the haze of lockdown, there's a certain unreality about it. Because in 2019, we had considerable successes, both financial and throughout our charitable endeavor. And throughout the lockdown and COVID, there is no doubt that the enriching people's lives through plants becomes more and more relevant. 15 years ago, Wisley Hilltop looked like this. Now, I'm not going to tell you or show you what it looks like today, because that is what the Director General will talk about. But 15 years ago, when I started my volunteering for the RHS, we didn't have really very much vision. We had hardly any aspiration. We had little energy. And I'm sure that had it not been for 10 years of the Director General, that image of Hilltop would be the same today as it was then. And I would like to just say that Sue Biggs, who is our Director General, has been, or will have been in a week's time, our Director General for 10 years. And during that time, the level of energy, the level of endeavor, the level of enthusiasm, and the fact that she has gathered together a leadership team around her, which gives the council trust and allows the council to make very significant developments, the £160 million developments, which we would never have been able to do without that trust and endeavor. Now, as we all know, the infrastructure of the various gardens has been creaking for many years. And certainly in 2019, the first of our major build contracts was completed, namely the Welcome Building, in which we're sitting at the moment. And that just illustrated the beginnings of that ambition. Because we have the faith and the trust to believe that the leadership team, when they say it'll be on time and on budget, it actually is. And I have to say that with the leadership, with the Welcome Building, that is absolutely what happened. And similarly, Hilltop is now taking shape, and those of you who come to Wisley will see the enormous development and the enriching of Wisley itself through this new building. Now, one of the largest horticultural projects in Western Europe, RHS Bridgewater, is one of those extraordinary moments which we decided to take on. And as you can see from this slide, it's a pretty grim place. It is the largest wall garden probably in the UK at 11 acres. And it had been falling into neglect for some time. But last year, with the aid of 700 volunteers, some 100,000 plants, bulbs and shrubs were planted. And later on, the Director General will be able to show you what it looks like now. At Rosemore, the cool garden was completed, and so was the heritage fruit orchard. And sadly, Lady Anne Palmer, who donated Rosemore to the RHS, died just 2 months short of her 100th birthday. And 2 plants have been planted in respect of her life. Harlow Carr celebrated 70 years of being a garden, and Hyde Hall, for those of you who go, the perennial meadow is now looking absolutely magnificent. Now, in terms of shows, at Chelsea last year, the Duchess of Cambridge put her heart and soul into the RHS Back to Nature garden. And that was a garden where we were partnering with the NHS, which later then went off to Devon to an NHS facility down there. And that has been well liked and a great success. In terms of partner gardens, we have increased our number of partner gardens to 218. So all in all, 2019, even looking back from this period of extraordinary uncertainty, it was a tremendously successful year. So when I sign off as your president, I have mixed feelings. On one hand, there are many more benefits for the members than there were when I started. But the COVID problem has bruised and battered us financially and probably mentally as well. But we will emerge alive and kicking. And I have to say, I have total faith for the future as I hand over to Keith Weed as your new president. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I now pass over to Matthew Lindsay Clark, our treasurer.
Thank you, Nico. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. And may I add my greetings and best wishes to all of you joining us online. It is customary on these occasions for the Treasurer to dwell at some length on the financial performance in the year under review. And while that's a tempting prescription, insofar as last year was a rather successful one for the society, as Nico has just run through, these achievements have all been rather overshadowed by events after the year end in the shape of COVID-19 and the enormous economic impact of the lockdown for which we are only now emerging. I will therefore keep my comments on last year's performance fairly short so that I have time to cover the very significant impact of COVID-19 on our finances and reserves. But if you would like more detail, I would refer you to my review on pages 25 to 30 of the annual report. The last financial year, which was characterized by generally favorable weather during our key spring and summer seasons, saw strong progress on many fronts. Visitor numbers to the 4 RHS gardens over the year were a record 2.3 million. The new welcome building here at Wisley was opened in June and immediately contributed in increased visitor numbers, retail and catering income. Growth in membership also accelerated, and total membership ended the year at over 525,000. Visitors to our shows once again exceeded 500,000 people, and our retail operations increased sales by 10%, with online sales up by 17%. Alongside all of this business as usual, the Society continued to invest in the gardens and in the strategic investment programme, which is in its peak phase of activity and expenditure. Overall, our income from regular operations increased by 4% to 94 million. On the same measures, our expenses increased by 6.5% to 88 million, reflecting the continued investment in headcount and horticulture in the gardens, including building out the operational team at Bridgewater ahead of its opening next year. The depreciation charge has also increased and will continue to do so as new buildings are completed, both at Bridgewater and at Wisley. In addition, our financial statements reflect fundraising in relation to the strategic investment programme, which was £8.3 million in the year under review. The receipt of pledged funds for the SIP will continue to have a very substantial influence on the Society's results over the next few years, and by their very nature, the amounts received are likely to vary from one year to the next. Together, including both our regular operations and the SIP, the Society generated total income of £102 million, up from £98 million in the previous year, and net income of £8.5 million versus £10.4 million in the previous year. As I said earlier, we are now in the midst of our peak investment phase under the SIP. Capital expenditure in the year under review amounted to £41 million, up from 33 in the previous year, the vast majority of which was in relation to the SIP projects at Bridgewater and here at Wisley on the new Welcome Building and the Centre for Horticultural Science and Learning. At the year end, our reserves of cash and investments stood at over £60 million, following another year of solid investment performance. Importantly, our portfolio has held up well despite the recent stock market volatility due to our conservative investment approach and a deliberate reduction in equity funds shortly before the year end. These investments, together with our valuable unencumbered property assets in Vincent Square and Wisley Village, and the enduring support of our members and donors, represent a crucial protection against the current crisis and underpin our confidence that we can absorb the losses we are facing as a result of COVID-19 and restore the financial performance of the Society while seeing through the completion of the strategic investment programme. The impact of COVID-19 on our operations has been significant, with the cancellation of the entire summer show season and the closure of gardens and retail sites over the busy spring season. Even now that the gardens have reopened, social distancing restrictions mean that we have had to limit entrance numbers and not able to operate a full catering service. In addition, while we've seen gratifyingly low increases in membership cancellations compared to our normal expectations, the take-up of new memberships slowed to a trickle during lockdown and will continue to be impacted by the reduced visitor numbers to the gardens, our most important source of new members. We are therefore expecting membership numbers to decline over this year, perhaps back to somewhere around the 500,000 level by year end. Together, this will add up to a dramatic reduction in income in the current financial year. Against this, we have focused on our cost base, reducing operating costs or delaying expenditures wherever we can. We have taken advantage of the government's job retention scheme, furloughing large numbers of staff on 80% pay, although the numbers on furlough are now reducing as we progressively reopen the gardens, retail and catering. We have focused on shoring up our membership base by providing members with continued high level of benefits, increasing the numbers in the advisory team, and providing additional digital content and virtual show experiences. We've also been hugely helped by the generosity of our members and other supporters. As one example, many of the people who bought show or gala tickets for this year have rolled their purchases into next year, meaning that we will not have had to reimburse the cash price of their tickets. Some have even converted the purchase into a donation. As a result of these actions, our cash position remains strong, and whilst inevitably depleted, our reserves will, we believe, be sufficient to carry us through. Turning back to the strategic investment programme, we are now more than halfway through that investment phase, and even with COVID-19, we remain committed to fulfilling this inspirational long-term undertaking in order to achieve the ambitious charitable aims that we have set ourselves in the coming years. Of the anticipated total investment, we're contributing at least £120 million from reserves and annual surpluses over that period, and targeting to raise in excess of £40 million from fundraising. To date, we have received fundraising donations of around £25 million and have pledges of a further £6 million towards the target. And we have already invested £135 million in the projects. While we have prudently deferred certain elements of the SIP and will continually re-evaluate the amount and the phasing of the remaining expenditure, we have not adjusted the overall scale of the programme nor the target fundraising. Even though their opening dates have been delayed, we remain absolutely confident of the transformative impact of both the new RHS Garden Bridgewater and the Centre for Horticultural Science and Learning, and believe they will each, in their different ways, be hugely important components of the Society's future success and purpose as we rebuild from this crisis. Finally, I'd like to take this opportunity to add my personal thanks to the leadership team and to all of our employees for their dedication, commitment and hard work during this exceptionally difficult time. They have together ensured that we are prepared as best we can be for the unprecedented experience through which we are all living. Thank you very much, and I'd now like to hand the mic over to Sue.
So hello everybody, and I really wish that I was standing in front of you at the moment looking out over a sea of faces of members, but unfortunately it's not to be this year. But you've already heard many of the wonderful things that happened last year, and certainly 2019-20 was a year that all of us on the leadership team and all of our employees really view that as a year to be proud of. Tremendously exciting year with us opening Wisley Welcome Building in June last year, and so much fundraising already achieved, as Matthew mentioned, the Back to Nature Garden with the Duchess, as Sir Nicholas mentioned, but we also did a lot with plant health and a changing climate, with new reports coming out and a new science strategy, and also a record membership of 524,000, and that all ended the year. Indeed, I think our finance director, Mark Norman, and I possibly felt quite cheery at the beginning of this year, as we had over a 10 million surplus to reinvest into the charitable works of the RHS. But then came February, the wettest ever month, wettest ever February. And then on the 22nd of March, I'm sure I don't need to tell you all, but COVID lockdown began. I would have to say this has turned into a literally unbelievable year. From the government announcing all of the stay alert, control the virus, save lives. We took a very quick decision to close our gardens, a slightly harder decision to close Chelsea. It's a tough thing to close the world's most famous and best flower show, and swiftly following all our other shows, all of our offices closed. And something that gets forgotten, but just as important, if not more so, all of the amazing community projects that we do around the country, including Britain in Bloom and Campaign School Gardening, all of that work stopped. So within that, all of the retail stopped as well, apart from our online that struggled to cope with the volume at the beginning of the year. I think Sir Nicholas earlier on mentioned about 55% of our staff were furloughed, but that's reducing as we build back up again. So now we find ourselves today with around about, well, I think about 40% are still furloughed, but we find ourselves facing really quite some problems ahead as a result of COVID. Matthew mentioned the losses, and that could be anything up to, we think, around about 18 million. Now, for a charity of our size to lose that amount of money from our plans is clearly a serious issue. All of us don't really know yet the economic impact of COVID. Talk literally last night with Greater Manchester at having a second element of lockdown. And so there are a lot of question marks around. We are so grateful to all of you who are watching online, because although there was a sudden reduction in our membership when it first happened, that is recovering. And I hope that we do indeed. Our membership is still over 500,000 at the end of this year. But all of you watching are members, and I can't thank you enough for keeping faith with us, for keeping trust and staying as members of the RHS. Now, part of our going forward with the problems that we still are faced with, we still have got more than £8 million to raise, and we've still got to get the government to really value the power of gardens and of the horticulture industry. Because as we move forward, and it is bizarre, I find, that we've all almost forgotten Brexit. Do you remember last year, pre-COVID, Brexit was all we ever all talked about? And now it's fast heading down the line towards us. And that is going to hit horticulture and the RHS. Everything to do with plant passports, border controls, plant health. We also need to remember that the changing climate issues that we were all looking at so much, and sustainability, that hasn't gone away. Indeed, whilst lockdown helped the climate temporarily, we will be focusing on that even stronger going forward. We mustn't forget as well that qualifications and the skills crisis, the green skills crisis, is still continuing. So we have a lot that we need to continue lobbying the government on, and we are also lobbying the government, and these I'm talking particularly to our lovely members at Wisley. You may remember a few years ago, I think it was 3, we had the Save Our Trees campaign with Alan Titchmarsh, and Highways England agreed that they wouldn't damage and take our trees. So we won that campaign, largely due to your support. Well, I'm afraid Highways England have now said that those trees are under threat again. So watch out on our website, because we will shortly be putting details up and ask you to sign a petition to government, and also to write to your local MP to get the Secretary of State to reconsider and turn that plan down for the impact on Wisley. So lots of challenges indeed, but I have to say, and I'm delighted to maybe lift the mood a little now, I do think there have been some tremendous positives on relating to COVID in 2020. At the RHS, and I know everybody talks about in their own where they live, but the team spirit and the community spirit that has got us all through this. People, some working from home, some on site, some want to be in the opposite place, some are furloughed, some are not. It's been absolutely amazing, and I'm so inspired by everyone at the RHS who has contributed so much and so hard during this time, whether they've been working ridiculous hours, saving and keeping our gardens looking beautiful for all of our visitors now beginning to return, or indeed contributing by staying on furlough. So those positives we had to think when we finished at the discussions over the cancellation of Chelsea Flower Show. We decided very quickly that virtual Chelsea should be born, and what an amazing time that was. In 7 weeks, we ended up with record-breaking visitors to virtual Chelsea, and I still, every time I talk about this number, I sort of think, no, I've remembered it wrong. But it is amazing that during that lockdown period, we had 17 million visitors to the site during lockdown, and including virtual Chelsea. So it is great, and part of it has been that the nation has recognised that gardening is important, and never has our mission to inspire everyone to grow and our complete vision to improve everyone's life through plants and make the UK a greener and more beautiful place been more relevant, or indeed more inspiring, or more needed. And we must ensure that this isn't lost going forward. I'm sure it won't be, because we're creating new gardens and buildings at Bridgewater and Hilltop. And when we start having face-to-face meetings, which will be very soon again, because I don't think many more of us can cope much longer with Zoom, then we will be talking about the return of all of our community work, because going forward, that really has to be at the very forefront of what we're doing. And never has community mattered more, never has gardening, the power of gardens, of green spaces, of balconies and indoor gardens. So we will, I promise you, we will hold on to that, and we will grow that. And without the support of our generous donors, we would never have been able to keep going in such a way. So I think there are also some lovely things to look forward to next year. And I think we all need cheering up for 2021. And I have to say here in brackets, COVID willing, but assuming it's COVID willing, then Bridgewater, that was due to open this year, indeed, it was due to open today. So it's a shame, because the weather is beautiful today and would have been a great opening day, but we will now be opening on the 11th of May 2021 at Bridgewater. And we know that Greater Manchester has got a degree of lockdown now, but all of our team there up in Bridgewater are doing an amazing job, and the community there of Salford is so supportive. So to everyone up there who's watching, bear with us. That garden, when it opens, you will love it. We will love welcoming you to it, and thank you for all your support. It's going to be a busy month, actually, because then the wonderful Chelsea returns from the 18th to the 22nd of May. And then in the middle of June, we haven't quite fixed the date yet, but it'll be mid-June, Wisley Hilltop will open here. And for those of you from Wisley or who visit Wisley, you will already have seen this beautiful building developing, and I'm going to show you some photographs in a moment. But it really is a stunning building with three beautiful gardens opening up around it. So it's going to be a really exciting month from the 11th of May to the middle of June. 3 wonderful things to celebrate at the RHS. We are working on Spring London show that was in London is moving to Hyde Hall. The Botanical Art Show, we hope we will have at a gallery in London, and Helena Pettit, our shows director, will be announcing that fairly soon. And we're looking at ways that, for example, where we have cancelled shows, that we can do an RHS gardener show, we hope, at Chatsworth. So lots coming on there. As I say, the great news that gardens have finally been recognised of how valuable they are to help the people and the planet. The Growing Measure membership, the campaign School Gardening and Britain in Bloom, everything coming on, and a real focus from our side, not only on the sustainability that I mentioned before, but also on diversity and being against any form of racism in the RHS or indeed the world of horticulture. So we're at a starting point. We have our diversity and inclusion manager starting on Monday, in fact. So we will welcome Glenn, and we'll be working on that with great intensity going forward. And please feel free to contact us if you have ideas about what you would like to see and how we could improve those areas of diversity and sustainability. So this is the commercial sales break now coming up, that the flower shows, we will be opening later on in the year, obviously, for flower shows for next year. So for Malvern Spring Festival, that's going to be the 6th to the 9th of May. Chelsea, the 18th to the 22nd of May. Hampton Court is coming along on the 6th to the 11th of July, and Tatton Park on the 21st to the 25th of July. So lots to look forward to. I can't wait for Malvern, and I can't wait for Chelsea and Hampton Court and Tatton Park to welcome back our amazing British nursery people who have worked so hard to survive during this time. So to them and to all of the designers, the contractors, the landscapers, the trade stands, everyone who makes up our show world, we've missed you this year, and we can't wait to welcome you back next year. Of course, including all of our members who make the atmosphere at those showgrounds so buzzy, so exciting. So it's going to be wonderful to see you. So we're going to come on to some pictures very shortly now. You've already heard mentioned, and I'm sure you all know from previous both AGMs and reading about it in the Garden magazine, about our fantastic strategic investment programme, which is really exciting. And to have our council, our trustees, authorise an investment of 160 million for horticulture's benefit has been truly inspiring over the last few years. And we're at its peak in terms of cash, but we're way ahead of that, of the peak, halfway through, in terms of the construction and building all of the things that we promised we would. So at Wisley first, the Hilltop Science and Learning building is well on its way, and you're going to see some photographs of that at the moment. The Welcome building, as you know, and I hope many of you have already enjoyed the plant centre there and the retail space and the lovely dining and catering areas outside. So that's all open. Bridgewater, you're also going to see some photographs of, so I'll talk more about that then. Hyde Hall, for those of you looking in from Hyde Hall in Essex, that garden just continues to look more and more beautiful, with the hilltop now established, the perennial meadow, as Nico mentioned, and also the area around the lake and up onto the hillside. So Hyde Hall doing really well, going gangbusters. So particularly want to thank our Essex membership. You are supporting that garden brilliantly. Lindy Library was one of the other projects, and the work was done right at the beginning of this programme then, so that's completed. Horticulture Matters continues on. You may remember, those stalwarts of you who've been at our AGMs for many years, that the Horticulture Matters programme is all about apprentices, students, and making horticulture a career to be proud of. So that will carry on ad infinitum now. We will never come off that. And if you are interested in a career in horticulture, please look on our website. You will see over 50 films talking about either young people coming into horticulture or career changers coming in and inspiring you to join our wonderful industry. It is fantastic, so please take a look on our website. Community outreach is also continuing, but as I touched upon before, that will become a larger and larger percentage of our investment and our time and our thought. And then lastly, of the 7 projects that made up the 160 million is Harlow Car. And here you can see a photograph of Harlow Car coming up here. And that really is the pub we bought. Now, I have to apologise at this point because I think you've probably heard me say this at AGMs quite a few years now, of quite an unusual thing for a charity to do. But we bought that right on the edge of our property, and Harlow Car has been very patient up there in North Yorkshire, waiting for the investment to come through to complete its conversion into, in the first stage, a cafe, whole area exhibition space, and then eventually an events building attached to it, as well as the historic landscape back down to the bathhouse. So it's coming soon, Harlow Car, and then we move on to Bridgewater. So we're going to take a look at a few photographs now, and if you remember, the photograph that did look quite, well, I think the word is dull, the photograph that Sir Nicholas showed you, which was of the state that the Bridgewater 154 acres was in when we first saw it. This beautiful drawing was done by Tom Stuart Smith, and absolutely beautiful vision of what Bridgewater might become. And here you can see, even though it is on a rather wet day, I have to say, but then we are in the northwest, but look at the difference that is coming on its way. And you can see the 11-acre wall garden in the middle there, and we're going to take some close-up looks at those two gardens. So I really would encourage all of you to get the date in your diary for next year to come and see us in Salford, because here's the welcome building that we will welcome you in through. It's a really beautiful building that just sits in the landscape, and here you can see another photograph of it, and that's just we've created. There is an existing lake at Bridgewater, but what you can see there in the photograph is the retail space with the glass house roofs popping up, and a beautiful decking area over a new lake that we've created, where you'll be able to sit out there and have a wonderful cup of tea and a piece of cake overlooking the new lake and the gardens. And before we get to the rest of the gardens, the welcome building is there with the artists, well, it was the architect's drawings actually, Stephen Hodder's drawings there of the beautiful inside of the building. And if you then look at where we are today, in actual fact, this is a week ago, it's looking even better than this today, but it's like a cathedral in there. It's really, really beautiful. And that's already, as we speak, being filled with all the retail and catering furniture to go into that new part of the building. So as we come through the building, you'll see the welcome garden. So again, this has been designed by Tom Stuart Smith, and all of the beach mounds and everything here as you come through it, still obviously they're not being planted up. You can see other bits here with the bothy chimney in the background as you welcome, and the wall of the inner wall garden. And as we move through there, so in the background of that shot, you can see the beautiful welcome building. The green building to the left, I have to say, is not a permanent fixture. That's for our lovely builders. But the Chinese streamside garden, as it comes down, I'm going to show you the source of the streamside garden in a moment from the original lake. But this is the planting being planted as the streamside garden comes down into the new lake. So from this shot, you can see the source of the Chinese streamside garden. And comes off at the top of this photograph is the original historic lake, and then it will come down through all these boulders with some beautiful bridges are going to go on there, and the planting will be plants that originate in China that we think of often as very British plants, but they actually originated in China. So it's going to be a great historic interest as well as a horticultural interest to look at along that garden. And as you can see here, this is the stream side and its attenuation pond as it meanders down. So there's going to be lots to see as you meander down that stream side. So on to the beautiful Paradise Garden with the new greenhouses there that you can see just to the left, and the beautiful pond in the middle there that you can see. This is designed by Tom Stuart Smith, and the Paradise Garden also has quite advanced planting now. So you can see this all around the glass houses in that half of the inner wall garden that is going to show all the different zones of different plantings. So by the time we get to May next year, it's going to be 1 year on from where it might have been. Obviously the planting was delayed by COVID and plant supplies and all delays and all the rest of it, but it will look, I promise you, spectacular by the time that we open next year. So moving on now, this is the second half of the inner wall garden, and this is the kitchen garden. Plantings not quite as advanced there as in the Paradise Garden, but great big representations there and mirroring the bothy that you can see there, and all sorts of roses and peas and beans are going to scramble up those. So that's going to look spectacular next year as well. And coming out from there, you will see all sorts as you wander around Bridgewater. But now we're going to move on so you can see a few pictures for those of you who haven't made it to Wisley yet this year. And these are the drawings of the Wisley Hilltop building, which is known as the Centre for Horticultural Science and Learning. You can see it's a Y-shaped building in the plans here. And really Wilkinson Ayres, whose plans these are, you can see two arms to it. It is basically, as its name says, all of our horticultural libraries, science and gardening are in this building. All of our science teams are moving out of the laboratory up to Hilltop with herbarium, seed store, scientific research laboratories. Our horticulture team are there as well. A big events building you can see on the left there, the wing on the left. And in the middle of that Y, a wonderful atrium space to really be able to hold permanent exhibitions and temporary exhibitions about the power of plants and nature. They will link into the three gardens that you can see here. At the top of the picture, you can see the Wellbeing Garden, which is designed by Matt Keathley. Round to the right, the Wildlife Garden, around the back of the building, and then to the left, the World Food Garden, and both of those are designed by Anne-Marie Powell. So really exciting plans. And then you see a real life version of where we are now. And helpfully, we didn't put them the same way around. So you've now got the Wellbeing at the front, the Wildlife at the left, and the World Food still to come on the right-hand side of Hilltop. But if you just notice the magnificent magical change we just made on the left, you'll see an overlay of what that wildlife garden is going to look like. And I have to say that you can see a lot of water in there. Those lakes look brilliant as they bleed into Battleston Hill. And you can just see from the top of that building what the imagination was of the designers at the beginning, looking down over the Wellbeing Garden and just seeing the distance to the laboratory. Well, today, that view is there of literally down to the laboratory, and you can see Matt Keathley's garden well under construction, with trees being planted, pines going in, lots and lots going on there. So it's a really exciting time at Wisley, and inside, these are the plans that you can see, and this gives you an idea of the atrium and how it was designed and the space that we will have available to look at the work of the herbarium. You can see there on the left-hand side, the library, all of the different things. There's going to be a film zone, presentation area. So today, as the construction continues, that's how that space is looking. So it's really coming along well now. Flooring now going down, so it creeps ever closer, the opening in June. Really stunning building, architecturally really spectacular, nestling into the hilltop there. And once we finish that, we have one last part to go with Wisley, and that's with the lovely old laboratory, that this will become open to the public for the first time in 2022, and work will start on that fairly soon, later on this year. So lots to come at the laboratory, lots to come, really exciting time at the RHS. You can see here, I'm sure many people watching this now will not have seen this view unless you're quite elderly really, because this has been covered up for around 60 years, I think it is, with our retail space. So nobody has seen this view for over 60 years. So all the retail space, the old plant centre has gone and revealed this beautiful, beautiful building, and that lovely giant oak that sits just by the side of the Wilkes Gate that used to be our entrance. And you can see the Welcome Building, the grey roofs of the Welcome Building just at the bottom, far right of that picture. So there are exciting times for the laboratory, exciting times for Wisley. And I just want to finish really by, I think everybody watching this knows that there's never been a better time for gardening. My goodness, have we needed it all through lockdown for those of us who are lucky enough to have an outdoor garden. And for those who have indoor gardens or a balcony, I know how much you've treasured that link to plants as well. But before I finish, I do just want to thank everyone who's listening to this. I want to thank our patron, the Queen, who is just amazing. I want to thank all of our members who are listening to this, our fellows, all of our ambassadors, all of our members, and all of our staff, because our staff and volunteers, the volunteers were stood down and our staff have worked just so amazingly well this year. So to everybody who's included in that massive group of people, I really do want to thank you all. And now I am going to pass back to a person who has been my boss for the last 7 years and has been a really wonderful president for the RHS. And I know I speak on behalf of all the staff at the RHS that we've all really enjoyed having you as our president, and thank you for all the amazing generosity of time and hard work and wisdom that you've given to us all. So back over to you.
Thank you very much, Director General. Unnecessary comments, but anyhow, very, very much appreciated. Now, as 30 minutes have now passed since the start of the meeting, the quorum is the number of those present, and there are 10 people present in the room, so the annual general meeting can now commence. The minutes of the 2019 AGM, the minutes are available on the RHS website, and I would like to propose that the meeting approve the minutes of the 2019 AGM. And I call on Matthew and Lindsay Clark to second.
I'm happy to second that proposal.
The meeting therefore agrees the minutes.
And the next item on the agenda is the approval of the annual report. The annual report and financial statements are available on the website. And I would propose, therefore, that the meeting receives the RHS annual report and consolidated financial statements for 2019-20. I'd invite Seneca to.
I have much pleasure in seconding that proposal. And the meeting therefore agrees the annual report and financial statements. Now we come to the declaration of the election of President and Treasurer. Brief biographies of both candidates appear in the notice of the AGM and are available on the website. And each candidate was the only one nominated for election as President and Treasurer, respectively. The election of President. Keith Weed is declared unopposed as President to take effect from the end of the AGM. And I would like personally to say, good luck, Keith, because you bring to this whole society skills and experience which we probably never had before. So I think it is fantastic that you're prepared to put your shoulder to the job, and good luck and well done and everything else. And I've given you the badge of office because we can't exchange because of social distancing. But anyhow, good luck, and if you'd like to just make yourself known and say a word or two.
I'm just going to say thank you very much to Sir Nicholas for his brilliant leadership as President of the RHS, and as he's already said, the marvellous work that Sue and the team has done, and I'm really looking forward to joining and helping the momentum that both of them have set up over the previous year. So thank you very much for your warm welcome, Sir Nicholas.
Keith, thank you very much. And I have to say that it has been a great privilege to have served the membership for the last 7 years as President, and 3 years before that as Treasurer, and 5 years before that as a member of the Business Committee and on Council. And it has been fantastic to see such great steps being made forward in the development of the society. So thank you very much. The election of Treasurer, Matthew Lindsay Clark is declared unopposed as Treasurer. You've heard from him, so you probably don't need to see him or speak, have him say anything. But I have to say that as Treasurer, he's an incredibly safe pair of hands. And he looks after your finances exceedingly effectively. And not only that, he's got a wonderful sense of humour, which is part of the whole business of volunteering in anything. Unless, Matthew, do you want to say anything?
Thank you for those kind words, and I'd just add my final comments in terms of how enjoyable it has been to serve on the council alongside you, Sir Nicholas.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much indeed. Now, the election of ordinary members to council. Council is responsible for the strategic direction of the society and ensures that it acts in accordance with the objectives set out in the RHS Charter. Council comprises the President, the Treasurer, 15 ordinary members and up to 2 co-opted members. Council members are also trustees of the society. Every year, as part of the democratic running of the society, at least 3 ordinary members of council retire, and the resulting vacancies are filled by the election at the AGM. Now, Peter Gregory, Professor Emeritus, is retiring from his term on council. Peter has been a tremendous supporter of the society throughout his 10 years on council, chairman of the Finance Committee, and now a floral judge. So we will see Peter quite a lot at the shows once we're allowed to have them. So Peter, thank you very much indeed for your contribution to the society. Now, I will come back to you, Peter, if I may. Mick Crawley and David Ray have reached the end of their first terms and are eligible for reappointment. These 3 vacancies will be filled by election of candidates for a term of 5 years. Peter, would you like to make yourself known?
Thank you very much, Nico. Thank you for those very kind words. I'd just like to say a couple of thanks. First of all, to Sue and all of the RHS staff for their enthusiasm over these last 10 years and their unfailing courtesy. Everybody in the RHS staff has been wonderful to me. And particularly, I want to thank Alistair Griffiths for all of his work on the science, the development of the science strategy, the delivery of the first strategy, and the emergence of the recently approved strategy as described by Nico earlier in the meeting. That's all been tremendous. The second thing I'd like to do is just to acknowledge, as I did yesterday, the support of members of council, but particularly at this meeting, to draw attention to the fact that my term of 10 years overlaps with Nico's term of 10 years, 3 years as treasurer and 7 years as president. My first meeting of council 10 years ago was when Nico proposed to the council that they should perhaps consider selling or disposing of the Lawrence Hall. Council, in its customary way, delayed making a decision, but that was the first step along the strategic investment plan. I've been associated with many people in my professional career. Very often I've seen style overcome substance, or people have style but can very rarely deliver what they've set out to do. But what I found with Nico is that not only does Nico have a certain style and a delightful style, but he's also a man of substance. And for that, I'm immensely grateful, and I've been a pleasure to work with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much again for those wonderful remarks. Totally false, of course, but anyhow. Professor Mick Crawley is entitled and has chosen to stand for re-election. And again, Professor Mick has been a tremendous bonus to the society. His knowledge of wildflowers, plants, and everything else is quite legion. Dr. David Ray is entitled and has chosen to stand for re-election to council. And David from Edinburgh has been the sort of the pillar of reasonableness, which is marvellous when one's chairing a large council. And I must say, David, it's been great to have worked with you. And I just invite you to say hello and say a few words, if that's allowed.
Thank you, Nico. I've been a professional horticulturist my entire life, and I've been very proud to be on council for the last 5 years. And I'd be delighted to serve for another 5 years, because I think the RHS is an amazingly well-run and efficient charity. And I think it does enormous good, both for its membership and for the industry. And for those reasons, I'd like to stay for another 5 years to see the SIPs translated into real benefit for our members.
David, thank you very much indeed for that. Janet Walker is entitled and has chosen to stand for election to council. And Janet, I'd very much like you to say hello and say a few words.
Hello, everyone. I must say, delighted and honoured to have been elected to the council. I've been on the RHS's audit committee for the last 18 months. That's been a very enjoyable experience. And I think it's a particularly, of course, it's a challenging time for the society, as it is for all charities and all organisations indeed at the moment. But I think, as we've heard, it's also an incredibly exciting time. So I feel really privileged to have the opportunity to be a part of the next stage of the RHS's progress and development. Thank you.
Janet, thank you very much. All their statements appear in the notice of the AGM and is available on the website. In summary, therefore, we have 3 candidates for three available places. Accordingly, the election is uncontested and then there is no need for a vote this year. I therefore declare that Mick Crawley, David Ray and Janet Walker are duly elected as ordinary members of council until the end of the AGM in 2025.
Thank you, Nico. The next item on the agenda is the reappointment of our auditors. And I'd like firstly to express our thanks to Crowe LLP, who are our auditors, for the excellent job they did this year, despite all the problems of lockdown. And that congratulations should also be extended to the entire finance team at the RHS, which did a really spectacular job actually bringing the annual report out early, or earlier than normal. So well done for that. I would like accordingly to propose that the meeting, on the recommendation of council, appoints Crowe LLP as the Society's auditors for the year 2020-2021.
And I would be delighted to second that proposal. And the meeting therefore agrees the appointment of the auditors. The appointment of vice presidents. The honorary role of a vice president of the Society is awarded to recognise demonstrable achievements in the science, art and practice of horticulture by individuals who have contributed or intend to contribute to the works of the Society. Vice presidents of the Society will have demonstrable capacity and commitment, acting individually and as a collective body, to make a significant contribution to the achievement of the Society's aims and objectives, to advise the President and Council on strategic issues concerning the Society, including its role as a learned society, and to exercise influence on behalf of the Society. Vice Presidents are appointed by Council. I would invite the meeting to receive the names of the Vice Presidents of the Society to be reappointed for next year. And you will see a list of all those who are existing Vice Presidents to appear on your screen. This year, we would also like to appoint Mark Fain, Rosie Hardy, and Sandy Muirhead as new Vice Presidents. Now, Sandy was, I think, probably the longest volunteer of anybody presently involved with the RHS, having been involved for 20 odd years with the RHS, culminating as a treasurer for 7. And I have to say that he has been a great supporter of the Society. Rosie Hardy, with Rob and Hardy's Cottage Plants, Garden Plants, have been exhibiting at Chelsea and many of the other shows with the RHS, and have been such incredible supporters of the RHS for at least 25 years, as well as all her education work that she has done. And Mark Fain, again, has worked tirelessly for the last 10 years as a member of council. His practical knowledge of building works have been invaluable to making sure that we have a practical sense and we're not thrown off course by theory. So those 3 will be appointed as vice presidents, and they will receive their badges, which couldn't be minted because of restrictions of COVID, at the awards lunch in February next year. The Carew Pole Award, the Council introduced the Carew Pole Award in 2018, named after the President Emeritus, Sir Richard Carew Pole. And this prestigious award is an award from Council made from time to time to those who have made an exceptional contribution to horticulture as non-horticulturalists. It is open to any UK non-horticulturalist, whether or not they have been involved with the RHS in the past. And I have great pleasure in announcing that Olivia Chappell, the very, very impressive founder of Horatio's, and some of you may have come across Horatio's Gardens and the great designs of gardens and surrounding homes for those who suffer from various disabilities. And so we are delighted to give her the award for 2020, which again will be formally awarded at the 21 awards ceremony. Now we come on to members' questions, which have been notified to us over the last month or so. And as I said at the start of the meeting, it's rather difficult to throw this open to the members through the screen. So we will have to bear with me, I fear. Stacey.
So the first question is from A. Blakey. In light of the current situation where we have been in lockdown and the RHS Gardens closed, thus unable to visit, I would like to ask the question, will our memberships be extended by this 3-month period?
I will answer that question. It is deeply sad that we did have to close our gardens and cancel all the shows, but we've tried to make up for it in as better way as we can by increasing the number of podcasts, by emailing members with suggestions, by giving them views behind the scenes. And the problem is for us is that as a result of the garden closures, we have lost, as the Director General has said, we've lost many millions of pounds. And if we extended your membership by 3 months, this would cost a further £6.5 million. And we Council felt very strongly that there is a better use of the charity's money when one considers that we've tried our best to make sure that members are satisfied by what we can benefit them over this difficult period. So I hope that you will understand that the £6.5 million on the one hand and membership benefits has got to be balanced.
Okay, so the second question is from D. Mawson. What steps are being taken to protect roaming wildlife at Wisley from harassment and potential cruelty by visitors, especially young children that like to taunt and chase the ducks?
Now, we're very fond of our wildlife at Wisley. Ducks, as one can imagine, are incredibly tame. And I fear that kids will be kids, and they do chase ducks. But rather than having rather negative signage throughout the garden, I just think we favour education, and particularly in our new Hilltop garden, we will be pushing the whole notion that insects and all aspects of wildlife should be emphasised and encouraged.
The third question is also from D. Mawson. Further to the question raised at last year's AGM, has any progress been made on the suggestion to offer RHS members a discount when purchasing goods in an RHS shop or cafe?
Well, as you can imagine, ladies and gentlemen, the closing of the shops and the cafes and our retail, we haven't made much progress on this particular issue. But I think it's fair to say that 2/3 of our customers are members. So offering everybody a discount would actually have quite an impact on our cost. So we'll continue to look to explore how we can make the RHS membership even better for members, including buying plants and on-site catering. And we will keep working on this.
And the final question, also from D. Mawson. The salary of the most senior employee, presumably Director General, at the RHS is now well over £200,000. Considering the impact on the charitable sector as a result of the coronavirus pandemic, will the trustees be reviewing the salaries of all senior staff in the near future?
The Remunerations Committee met in February and made certain proposals. And when the impacts of COVID were fully appreciated, those proposals were actually reversed. I think it's fair to say that we are in the middle of a £160 million development programme. The leadership team has actually worked incredibly hard and is under enormous pressure, cancelling shows, trying to run gardens on a shoestring. And we felt, the council felt very strongly that it was wrong, it would give the wrong impression to reduce any of the salaries of the leadership team. And one's got to remember too, within the charitable sector, that probably the salaries that we are looking at are far less than they would be in other sectors away from the charities. And I would like to make a point about the £200,000. That is a complete remuneration package. It is not just the salary. But I just do think that if you want good people, then you've got to pay good salaries, because otherwise we would fall into the category of being reckless with a large development program and making sure that it was delivered on time and on budget. So I can't ask the floor for any questions. So ladies and gentlemen, I hope this has been something that you have enjoyed is a difficult word, but probably you've learnt one or two things from today, which is the object of the exercise. And we look forward to seeing you actually next year at the AGM. So thank you very much indeed.